So I'd also like to look at number 8. Number 8 is just a slightly higher level question. And so we're still going to follow our guess problem solving steps, but there are quite a few different ways to go ahead and answer this question. And you get to choose how you want to go about answering this question. So it says we have a plane with a landing speed of 75 meters per second that needs to make an emergency landing at the closest acceptable airport. The landing gear is designed to withstand decelerations of up to 7.5 meters per second squared. The closest airport has a runway that's 300 meters long. Can the airplane land safely at this airport? And that's our question. Can we land at this airport, or do we need to go on to another airport before we land? So we have to start with our givens. The first thing I want you to think about is what type of motion is here. So we know that the plane is coming in for a landing. And, you know, when a plane lands, what do we expect to be its final motion? Hopefully at the end, the final velocity of the plane is 0 because it's landing, it's coming in to stop. So where does this 75 meters per second go here? It says a plane is with a landing speed of 75 meters per second. Is that the beginning of our motion or the end of our motion? So this is the speed that the plane is moving when it touches down. So I would call that V original, 75 meters per second. So as the plane is landing, it has a speed of 75 meters per second. The brakes are applied, the plane slows down to a final velocity of 0. It says that the acceleration of the plane is 7.5 meters per second squared. And they do say deceleration, which means we're moving forward and we're slowing down. So we make a negative in front of that, negative 7.5 meters per second squared. And then this runway is 300 meters long. And maybe at this point, hopefully you're asking yourself, well, I've got all these givens, but what's my unknown? Well, the question is, can the airplane land at this airport? So you have to choose which is your unknown. You may decide to say, well, my V original is 75 meters per second. My V final is 0 meters per second. My acceleration is negative 7.5 meters per second squared. How far does the plane travel with these considerations? If you get an answer that's less than 300 meters, could you land at this airport? Sure. If you get a distance that is longer than 300 meters, we don't want to land at this airport because the plane will get to the end of the runway and it'll just continue moving, hitting whatever's at the end of the runway. Okay, so that's one way you could solve this question. What's another way you could solve this question? You could say, well, V original is 75 meters per second. We have an acceleration of negative 7.5 meters per second squared. We travel a distance of 300 meters. How fast would the plane be moving at the end of the 300 meters? If you get a speed that is greater than 0, then it's still moving at the end of the 300 meters, and that wouldn't be okay. If you get a negative velocity at that point, then it would have stopped before it reached that 300 meters, and that would be okay. So that's a second way to solve this question. There's a third way to solve this question. What if you say the original velocity is 75 meters per second, the final velocity is 0 meters per second, we're going to travel 300 meters down the runway. What kind of acceleration is required to stop in 300 meters? So what kind of braking acceleration would we need? If you get an acceleration that is less than negative 7.5, then your brakes are fine. They're going to stop you before this 300 meters. If you get an acceleration that is greater than negative 7.5, then we can't land here because our brakes will not slow us down in time. Our brakes can only apply this acceleration.